Hey guys, this is Jen with Geek Forge, and we're trying out something that should be super exciting, maybe or not, uh, about how we're going to make our costumes. So this year, our costumes are actually kind of simple. So we're going to try and do as much live broadcasting as we can to show you guys what we do and how we get our stuff and how we put it all together. So this morning, I'm going to start working on my Sentinels of the Multiverse costume, the Wraith, and she is super cool, and she's kind of a Batman character. So I'm going to show you first the concept sketch that I drew for her. Obviously, still learning how to use this. So this is my costume design binder where I keep all the costume designs that I do, even the ones that we don't end up making. And very exciting for this one. So this is the one I'm going to start working on today. So this is the Wraith. Again, she's from the Sentinels of the Multiverse card game, which is going to be a video game very soon. You should check them out with Handelabra Games. So the first thing that we're going to do is I actually had some purple spandex left over from the Huntress costume that I didn't end up using. This is all the fabric storage. It's very messy, sorry. And so here's what we've got we've got red that's going to be for the middle parts. We've got the gray that's going to be for the leg wraps, and fabulous purple. It looks kind of blue. There we go. So this is how we're going to start, and I definitely should have cleared some space first, but here's how we're going to do it. The other thing that I'm going to need to start with is my very favorite leotard pattern, which is the green pepper. You can see it right here. We're going to be using the one without the sleeves on it, and this one right here. And as you can see from our reference picture here, we've got sort of this middle piece. So I'm going to do some color blocking, and that's going to be the most exciting portion of our show. My plan is I'm going to make the belt and probably use some Wonderflex or some EVA foam to make the symbol in the middle. I'm going to get some webbing to make the straps and then cover that in the spandex. So today I'm going to start cutting things out. So it's exciting, maybe, maybe not. But anyway, there was some requests from some of y'all to see how we did it. So here's how it is. So don't mind me while I clear stuff off. Also, if any of y'all have any suggestions on how I can both operate an iPhone and scissors at the same time, I would love to hear them, because I have no idea. So this is my very loved pattern. I've used it tons of times. In green pepper patterns, they're about $8 a pattern. You can buy them online, you can get a catalog, you can go to your local craft store and find them, and they're definitely my favorite for this leotard kind of look. The other thing that I will probably do with this one as well is I like to modify the bottom of the pattern so it's a little more of a boy short, which is a little different than what the pattern calls for, but that's my personal comfort level, and that's pretty easy to do as well. So all we're going to need is the front and back piece, which is number 1, and piece number 2, which is the lower portion. Ah, there we go. Now I can set it up and I don't have to hold it. So with color blocking, you're going to have to put the middle piece, it's going to be different. So what I'm going to start with is cutting out the suit in the purple color, and then I'll go back in and use the red. All the spandex came from spandexworld.com, which is where I get most of my spandex fabric. You can buy certain colors at your local fabric store as well, but they don't always have all the crazy colors that we need for all our comic books. Make sure that it stretches the right way. This is 4-way stretch, so it shouldn't matter, but it's always good to check. And there's a ton of spandex, so it's trying to get away from me. So because spandex is super slippery, I'm going to go ahead and pin it down. Sometimes I cheat on more sturdy fabrics or things that don't have quite the amount of give that the spandex does, and I won't pin it. You're not supposed to do that, but it's my costume. I do what I want. But in this case, with the spandex, pinning it down is absolutely the right way to go. I know y'all can't see it, but there is, with the fold, it's not cut quite straight. So I keep trying to make sure that it lines up. I don't even know if y'all can see that. So it's not quite lining up on the underside, so I'll just move it up. Also, the iron's not on, if anybody is concerned. And as you can tell, costume making isn't really all that glamorous, but it's lots of fun when it's done. So there you go. Next time I'll get a radio in here for you guys. I usually use my phone to play music, but I don't know how that works because I'm such a total noob with Periscope. So now we've got it all pinned on. And I like to make things more manageable, so I'm just going to cut a block out around it, and then I'll be able to trim it down to the right size it's supposed to be. So here's the top piece. We'll go ahead and cut that out. Now the pattern you do have to cut yourself. It's a multi-size pattern like most major pattern brands. But because I've used this tons of times with some of my other costumes, it's already cut out to my size. So that is something that you would have to do if you were to follow this same sort of technique. One thing that's also super important about working with spandex, and really any costume, is to be sure to know what you're going to wear underneath. Sometimes you take measurements and you're not wearing the correct undergarments, especially for ladies. If you're not wearing the bra you plan to wear underneath it, then your measurements might be off. I have what I call a superhero bra, which is a bra that has additional padding so that it counteracts the compressive nature of the spandex. That's just my personal preference, so I look a little bit more like a comic book character. And I don't use it for all costumes, usually just the ones that require a little bit more of the ladies to be featured. So now everything is cut out for the purple for the top. And the way that this pattern is made is this is actually your armhole. So here's the front, right? So we don't have a seam running down the front of our leotard. And this is going to be the back. So with that in mind, if we look at our picture again, we have that red piece in the center that we want to color block. So my next step is going to be to take this red fabric here and put it on there and figure out exactly how tall we want it, how thick we want it, and then we're going to cut that out. Then we'll put the two pieces together, and then we'll have a completed top. So I'm going to take my piece without unpinning the pattern. I'm going to set that aside for a minute. And we know that we want it on the front, so we have to fold it over just like we were going to be cutting another piece for the top. The difference here is that it's not going to be nearly as wide, so we can cheat it up a little bit this way. So what I'm going to do is, I know that that's going to be way too wide, but that's okay. I'd always rather have more fabric than not enough. So I'm going to just cut at the biggest possible point. It's not going to go all the way up to the top, and that's okay. We'll cut a small piece out, again, so we can work with it and get exactly what we want. So there's our red piece that we're going to use. Here's our front, or our top rather. It's still got all the pins in place so we can see exactly what sides we want to work with. So the fun part, I guess, is trying to figure out exactly where you want this to fall. So looking at the picture, it looks like it comes to the middle, and the belt is sort of that dividing line where we're going to have our seam where the top and bottom leotard are connected. So that's kind of cool. It's the same spot if you've seen the Golden Glider costume where the skirt attaches. So it's pretty much at the waist. So what we're going to do is take that red piece, we're going to cut it off at that waistline and kind of approximate where it's going to fall on the suit. So if we look at it like this, you can kind of see this is kind of the line of the bottom, and then this is the top. So that looks about right. It's a couple of inches. I don't have any specific math for you guys. This is sort of a guesstimate, and hope it turns out okay. And then we'll put it all together, and if it doesn't turn out, then I have lots of extra to do it again. We also don't want it to be quite this thick. So I'm going to cut it. Again, just guessing, sorry. You also want to leave some room for seam allowance. So if you want it to be, you know, about 3 inches wide, then we're going to go over a little bit further so that we've got something to stitch it to. Even with spandex, you have to remember to have a seam allowance. Some of those extra pieces there. Now I'm going to take my top piece that I've already cut out. I'm going to lay my color block piece underneath it. Line it up to where I want it to be. And this is where I'm kind of envisioning it going to be on the finished suit. So it's going to be something like that. And then I'm going to cut along this line here. Right, so now we have the color block piece. That's the same shape as the purple piece. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to flip the fabric over. We're going to cut out the piece that's going to be color blocked in, and then we'll stitch them all together. So here's what it's going to look like. And all that's going to be stitched together, and then we will add later the little pieces that go across to show the bandages. I may do full belts. I haven't decided yet. So now what I'm going to do is take some more of my pins. This is why pins are so handy. And without pinning the pattern, I'm going to pin the red to the purple in that seam allowance that we left, right? So that when I cut it out, I don't overcut it. And we'll do one more just for good luck. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the pattern off because I don't want to cut that because I use it so much. And as you can see, you don't need a ton of pins to keep the pattern on there, because while the spandex can be slippery, if you don't have a lot of weight on the bottom of it like we did when we started, then you don't need a whole lot of pins to hold it in place. Alright, so we're going to take our pattern piece away. Now we have that middle piece that we're going to use. Make sure everything lines back up like it's supposed to. And here comes the scary part, is you're going to actually cut into your suit. So, I don't know how well y'all can see this here. So I've pinned across the top here in the seam allowance, and I made them go lengthwise, so it takes the smallest footprint possible. And I'm going to cut right on the inside of where I pinned. So this is going to be where I stitch them together, so that's okay. Let me try and do this so you guys can see it. I've got a nice little setup here where my phone is propped up by the masking tape, so that should be fine. So the reason that I only pinned the top is now I can see. And I'm going to go this way. And we're going to stop just short, because now I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to go the other way. Now we can fold it back this way. See how it lines up? Now we've cut out that middle piece, we're going to set it aside, and that's our color blocked piece. Now when we stitch it together, we're going to pin all these pieces so that it makes one piece, stitch it all, and then we'll have a finished front. So we're going to take our front, we're going to open it up, and have that nice big hole in the front. That's okay, because we have a nice big piece to fill that hole. You want to make sure that you've got the triangle piece pointed down, because that's the part that goes in the front of the suit. So we don't want to stitch the wrong pieces together. Also, now's a good time to check. Sometimes you've got a right side and a wrong side to your spandex. This one, the colors look like they're pretty much the same. So the lighting's kind of bad down here, and I apologize. Let's see. I know, it looks super blue. So there isn't, this side might be a little bit brighter. It's just something to keep in mind. If there isn't a definitive shiny side versus a dark side or a matte side, keep in mind when you're putting your pieces together that you want to make sure everything is the same color all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and do it this way. And all these pieces fit together. And what ends up happening is it's going to end up like that. There we go. That's nice and focused. So we're going to pin them all together so then we can run a stitch around the side on the inside, and then that'll be this piece right here. Now, because I left the seam allowance so big, it actually is my piece a little bit bigger than I need it to be. So, I'm going to try and figure out exactly how much needs to, there we go. And this is a right sides together situation. Right, so we've got the top right there. It's got the right sides together. So now that we've got one piece, I go over here to the handy dandy sewing machine. And you can also use a serger for this, but my serger is in the shop right now, and it's very sad. So we're going to use a zigzag stitch on this one. It's the number 4. Every machine is a little bit different, but for spandex, you more than likely want to use a zigzag. Now we're going to take our 2 pieces and we're going to put them together. And I've already got black thread in the machine. So since this isn't going to be seen, I don't have to worry about that. So we want to make sure we're not catching any other fabric. And take out that first pin. It goes so good. So when you sew spandex, you want to stretch it as you sew it, because it's going to have some give, and you want the thread to be as far out as possible. And I'm not pulling super hard, just enough to make everything taut, so that when it comes back together, the zigzags will be kind of bunched up, and when you put it on, it won't stretch it out and pop all your stitches, which is not what anybody wants for their life. And when it's all turned right side out, that's how it looks. We're going to do the same thing for the other two sides. Also want to make sure that we're not catching any fabric we don't mean to, so always make sure that it's nice and flat when you do it. And because we're going with a square, I'm going to match up where I left off with the old one, with the original stitching there. And I want to make sure to try and keep these edges lined up as much as I can for the bottom. And see how it matches up so that when we unfold it, it's one continuous piece. Yeah. One side left. Again, I'm cheating because now I've got those sides anchored down. I don't have to worry about pinning. Probably should, but I'm trying to save some time. And just like everything else, there is, or everything else that has to do with crafting anyways, there's no right or wrong way to do it necessarily. It's whatever works for you. This is what works for me. There may be a better way of doing it, but I'm kind of self-taught, so I don't know what that better way might be. So if anybody knows a better way, I'm definitely all ears. I love learning new stuff, especially in how to make my costumes better. Make sure we caught all the fabric that we're supposed to catch and not any that we're not. And here you go. Here's our color block piece, and there's our drawing. And this is the piece that's going to go in the middle. I think that's all that I'm going to do for today. Do things like put in elastic and stuff, which I'm sure that y'all don't want to see. So let me know. Visit our website, visit our Facebook page. Let us know if you liked this. Let us know if this was super boring and we should never do it again. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.